I think we are all bad people. Doesn't mean there's no good in us. Doesn't mean we don't do good things. Um, but we're all bad people. Now, obviously, that depends a lot on how you define bad. I get that. But the beauty of this theory, I think, is that it works with whatever you think bad is, because it's all relative to the things that you know deep inside about yourself that you don't like, because that has to be the bad stuff, right? Society influences a lot of that. A lot of how we determine what we think is good and bad comes from what society tells us, and we internalize that and we believe it. And then it leads to us, if we go against it, not liking that about ourselves. But if society tells us something that we genuinely don't believe, I don't think it would lead to an issue with you not liking that about yourself. I think there has to be some sense of you believe it to be true for you to take that issue. So that's important because, again, bad becomes relative then. And I think the acceptance of that every single one of us has things about ourselves that we don't like, things we wish were different, bad aspects of us, things that make us a bad person. If we could all accept that and acknowledge that, that is such a huge part of the battle to trying to become better people, a better society. Again, however you define that. Because when you like yourself better, when you have the self confidence and belief that deep at your core, you don't think you're perfect, right? Actually, quite the opposite in the spirit of what we're saying. I'm aware of the things that I don't like about myself. I'm aware of the things where I have flaws, where I wish I could be better. When you do that, and therefore have that confidence to know that and that you're working towards it, and then can allow yourself to like yourself, it's such a better world for you, for the people you interact with. So much, if not all, frankly, of the suffering and the pain that's caused in the world, I believe, is rooted in insecurity and fear and internal suffering that we have that's turned outward, right? We've heard that before. We know that to be true. If you can alleviate that, think about the world that then gets created. If you could actually do the work to address those things, which is hard, it's super hard because these are inconvenient truths. These are things that deep at our core we don't like. And if we admit that, what does it say about us? Well, the point I'm trying to make is it says the truth. If you dig deep enough, if you're open enough, if you're reflective enough, and honest enough with yourself, you're going to get clarity on who you are and what you are. Is it the perfect truth? Is it 100% certain? Is it objective? We've had all those conversations. No, nothing's ever certain. So it's certainly possible you misread something in yourself, but that's not really the point. The point is that you're willing to do that work. You're willing to face that stuff that you don't like. So it gives you a chance to be better in it, or to learn maybe it's not that bad, because that's always a possibility too. Accepting that we're bad people, accepting that there's things about us that are always going to be wrong or off in some way, and that this is an ever going battle and journey to try and address those things and adjust and be better. You won't be perfect. It can be exhausting, and sometimes you do have to just think about yourself. It's nuanced, it's complex. There's not like a one liner here or a simple concept that, it's a battle every day and you always should feel miserable. No, of course you shouldn't, because then what's that? That's not solving any problem. Who likes that? Sometimes you do need to worry about yourself. But the idea of, you should only worry about yourself and it should just focus on you. And if you, fill your cup and make yourself feel good at the expense of everything else, then of course that's not the way, right? It's complicated. It's nuanced. But it, I believe, has to be rooted in this concept or this idea that we're flawed, which shouldn't be a hard thing for us to accept. I think that's a little bit of proof in and of itself. The fact that a statement like this could be taken as controversial or offensive in some way or upsetting in some way, that at our core, as humans, we're all bad people. The fact that that's tough for us to process, I think, is evidence, because that suggests our ego. Of course, we're bad people. We could be good people too, but there's a bad part of us. We're flawed. We're imperfect. We know that about ourselves. Then why can't we just act accordingly? It's hard. Again, I get it. It's hard. It's forcing you to face things that are uncomfortable. I get it all. I really do. I struggle with it still. I know this conceptually, and I still struggle with it. So I'm talking to myself, if not exclusively, as much as anybody. But I think there's a path. I think there's a path if collectively we can start to do more of this, if we can acknowledge this part of ourselves. I don't know. Maybe I'm a cynic. Maybe I see the world much darker and uglier than it really is. Maybe we're all beautiful, amazing people, and there's really no bad in us. It's just misguided or intentions gone awry. Maybe, but that's not the world that I see. The world that I see is that we are still beautiful people. We have the potential to be beautiful. It's there for us if we want it. But there's a badness in us. There's things that pull us away from that. It's a spectrum. Some people get pulled stronger than others. Circumstance dictates it, obviously. But it takes work to be a good person. It takes work to like yourself. I think that work is worth doing, though. And I think the more of us that get on board with that, the better off it'll be.